Secretary of State Mike Pompeo slamming China, doubling down on U.S. concerns over Chinese labs. Take a listen.
I can tell you were real concerns about the labs inside of China, and I have to say I'm still concerned that the Chinese Communist Party is not telling us about all of what's taking place in all of the labs, in fact, each of the labs all across China today.
Here now is retired four-star General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategic analyst. You know, I mean, it's hard to know where to start with this one. Do you believe anything that the Chinese are saying now?
No, the only thing I do believe is that they've got a major disinformation campaign out there to kind of convince people that they're not the international pariah that they've become. And I totally agree with Secretary Pompeo. Look at this late date, the Chinese are actually closing the door on anyone coming into China to help them discover what is the true origin of this coronavirus, which has absolutely gone around the entire world. And that in of itself, if there was no other adverse behavior, would be absolutely unacceptable behavior. But the fact that they contributed to the spread of this by permitting international flights all over the world, well after they knew they had an epidemic, that is criminal behavior, because we have people dying as a result of that pandemic whose lives could have been preserved, obviously. And I think at some point, when this dies down to a certain degree, you'll see the United States and the international community try to stitch together at least an international investigative body to try to determine the facts of the case and what happened. And so you understand, Melissa, the public image of the Chinese Communist Party means everything to me. It means everything to them. Their international image, and even more important, is their domestic image. They do not want the people in China to lose confidence in this Chinese Communist Party and its ability to deliver to them. As right now, they have a huge campaign that's identifying President Xi as a great national hero for keeping them alive and explaining all the measures that they took. And then they look at Europe and they look at the United States as examples of how not to do it. These democracies are incompetent governments. They're dysfunctional. And look what's happening to the people. We protected our people, and they have not been able to do it. Oh, yeah, they use state-owned media.
They control the message internally. There's nothing we can do about that. So, you know, we can't battle back against what the message is internally. On the outside,
oh, yes, we can.
Certainly understand what happened.
I disagree with you. Yes, we can. Yes, we can, because they get access to pieces of information. There's people moving in and out of China all the time. Chinese coming back from visits all over the world. They get plenty of information from that. There's all other kinds of visitors that'll be there. Not certainly now while the epidemic is still going on, but all of that will return. And they'll have access to information. That's why what we're doing internationally is very important, because it does impact on the knowledge level and appreciation what's happening inside China.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. New questions surrounding Kim Jong Un's health. What do you think is going on with that one? I mean, it feels like we're no closer to knowing what's really going on than we were a week ago, as we continue to speculate why we're not seeing him. What do you think is going on, and what does it mean?
Well, it's the problem we have with this closed regime, certainly, and it's been this way, you know, for the 6+ decades they've been in power. He behaves like his father and like his grandfather. And also, this is another regime that's absolutely paranoid in terms of showing any weakness, not so much to the world, but to their own population. So even having an illness in their mind is a weakness, because Kim Jong Un is portrayed as a deity in his country that's all-powerful, and any kind of visible sign that things aren't right to his population, they're going to try to protect. I mean, clearly the administration knows more, Melissa, than they want to talk to us about. I think we can draw a couple of conclusions. It seems apparent that he's likely alive, because the administration, the president, and Secretary Pompeo, we've not seen him. The president is wishing him well. I don't think he would be doing that if he felt he had died. So, I mean, obviously, Kim Jong Un and his handlers, they don't want him to be seen by their domestic audience and also by an international audience, and there's a reason for that. And it is likely to something fundamentally wrong. I doubt it. He's just hiding from the coronavirus, because he could still be seen doing that, and they could manufacture something very powerful in terms of his image while he's doing that. And so I think it's much more than that. But we're left to speculation when you're dealing with a regime like this.
Yeah, but your speculation is so much more educated than the rest of ours. It's a pleasure to listen to. General Keane, thank you so much.